One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. It is Friday, May 25th, 2012, and this is Memorial Day weekend for 2012. I have a bunch of stories I'm going to be covering tonight and getting into. And one of them you might have heard Joe vaguely cover. Actually, he didn't vaguely cover it. He played the clip and he did his best impression of me last night, where he was stopping the clip and yelling at it and flipping out. It was quite enjoyable to actually listen to. Just for those that didn't hear it, I'm going to play the clip again, and I'm going to point out a few things that pretty some of the same stuff that Joe went over, but a few other things as well. And I have a couple other clips I'm going to play and a few articles I want to get into. But before I get into all the police state insanity news, okay, I want to remind people of what Memorial Day is. And I kind of wish, this is one of those times I wish I was standing in front of a room with all the listeners standing there. But let's see if anybody knows. Let's see if anybody out there knows. I'll have to, suffice with the chat room. But does anybody have any idea what the original meaning of Memorial Day is at all? Most people think it's to honor lots of people who died. But why did they die? Who are we honoring? A lot of people think it's World War II veterans. Nope. Wrong. Vietnam? Nope. Wrong. Oh, Afghanistan and Iraq, Popeye. That's it. The War on Terror. Wrong. Memorial Day was originally people honoring all the dead from the Civil War in the 1860s. It started because communities would, they would hold gatherings and they would put flowers on people's graves. And eventually, in the late 1800s, it was, just officially, they started officially recognizing it. But it was originally the citizens in the 1860s remembering their families, their friends who were killed in the Civil War. It was remembrance of the dead of the Civil War. That's what Memorial Day is about. It's not about barbecuing with your best friend, hanging out with your girlfriend, getting laid, getting drunk, maybe getting high, going down to the beach. No, that's not what Memorial Day is about. So I just thought I'd let you know the true meaning of Memorial Day before I got into things, before I started ranting on stuff. I wanted to actually give you the basis of what Memorial Day is. It was to honor the dead. It wasn't to, go out and barbecue and throw soubrettes on the grill and everything else. So with that being said, I want to get into the police state news, especially for this Memorial Day weekend. And you can see how this country is going down the toilet very fast. Before I get into Miami Beach's problems this Memorial Day, which I covered, I pretty much spent the whole show Wednesday going over the stuff that they're going to be turning, the stuff that's going on, the checkpoints, the cameras and everything else. But I'm going to be going over a few things because since then, new stuff has come out. Like the police union, I don't know if he's the head or one of the representatives of the police union there in Miami Beach. He's a detective, and he's come out and said, we have every Memorial Day, we have quotas, which I've been saying for years, and a lot of people have. Like I said on Wednesday's show, I was there when the 1 year they had over 1,000 arrests, and this year supposedly it's 2,000, so we'll see. But I wanted to cover something really quick before I get into that. I'm going to get into the Miami Beach stuff and update that in the second segment. But first, I wanted to cover this really quick because this is going to piss people off. Cop tasers pregnant woman 3 times. Or excuse me, cops taser pregnant woman 3 times over a driving violation. This is, I found this by another author, and I republished it. The author's name is Mary Fisher. And let me read you a little bit of her article because it's not too long, so I should be able to get this out for the break. When I heard about 3 police officers who wound up using a taser on a pregnant woman in Seattle, my first thought was that the story was some kind of a joke. Cops tasering a pregnant woman in some sort of attempt to subdue her? For real? You got to be kidding me. Now, that's a normal reaction. A lot of people go, oh, she's not awake. What is she, stupid? No, that's a normal reaction. You should not be used to this. It's bad when we're used to this. It's bad if we're like, I see it so much it doesn't even bother me. No, it should bother us. This shouldn't be old hat to us. This should be really bothersome. This should freak everybody out. This should make people angry, at the very least. All right, let me get back into it. Apparently, these 3 officers became enraged when they pulled Malika Brooks over for a moving violation while driving her 11-year-old son to school. And she refused to sign the ticket. Good for her. She refused to sign the ticket they gave her because she didn't want to admit being guilty when she didn't feel she'd done anything wrong. Good for her. But in the state of Washington, it's a crime to refuse to sign a ticket. So they proceeded to arrest her. When Malika then refused to get out of her car because she was in her last trimester of pregnancy, the cops must have felt really threatened because that's when they tased her on her leg, arm, and neck. And that's where this case gets even crazier. Not only was she convicted for not signing the ticket, but after suing the officers because of pain and scars the tasers left behind, the circuit court ruled in their favor. But apparently getting away with using a stun gun on a prego wasn't enough for these guys because now they've appealed their case to the Supreme Court in the hopes of getting a final ruling that they were not in the wrong by tasing Brooks. Who exactly do these guys think they are? First, they used a stun gun on a woman who was carrying a child in her womb. And then after being told it was okay, they want additional justification for their actions. It sounds to me like this has much more to do with these officers' egos and with whether or not using the taser was right or wrong. Honestly, were they really that afraid of this woman making a run for it and getting away from them? I was lucky if I could make it up the stairs in my house during my last trimester, and there's definitely no way I could have outrun a cop. Don't these men realize that by shedding more light on the incident, they are only making themselves look like a bunch of wusses? I guess we can only hope that the Supreme Court finds their appeal as laughable as most people will. They had their day in court already, and it's time to let it go. But just to be on the safe side, I suggest complying with cops if you're unfortunate enough to be pulled over during your pregnancy. Signing a ticket is definitely a better option than getting tasered. Now, unfortunately, this woman that wrote this article, Mary, has no idea about admiralty law or what signing a ticket is, and the fact that you're contracting yourself out when you sign the ticket. You're agreeing to represent an artificial corporation that isn't you as a human being, and you're signing away your constitutional rights. And I applaud Miss Malika Brooks for not signing the ticket. Good for her. More people shouldn't sign their tickets. More people should tell them that, I'm not signing that. That's not me. Well, aren't you so-and-so? No, that's all capital letters. That's a corporation. I'm not a corporation. I'm a person. I'm a natural person. Remember that. Admiralty law. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to break. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Court okays barring high IQs for cops. FederalJack.com. You can see it. Just go right into up to the little search bar up at the top right-hand corner underneath the Bitcoin ad there at the top. And type in court okays barring high IQs for cops. I posted it in the chat room for anybody that wants to see it that's in the chat. If you don't know where the chat room is, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to oriontalkradio.com, go to shows and hosts, highlight it, and you'll see a little drop-down menu. You'll see down the rabbit hole right there. Click on it, and it will bring you to my show page. There's a player there, and there's the chat room if you so wish to use it to chat with some of the other listeners and leave messages for me, which I do check it from time to time, but I do not pay attention to it too much during the show because it would distract me too much. All right. Court okays barring high IQs for cops. ABC News. Not some guy in a basement with boxers with a tinfoil hat in his head. ABC News. A man whose bid to become a police officer was rejected after he scored too high on an intelligence test has lost an appeal in his federal lawsuit against the city. The Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New York upheld a lower court's decision that the city did not discriminate against Robert Jordan because the same standards were applied to everyone who took the test. This kind of puts an official face on discrimination in America against people of a certain class, Jordan said today from his Waterford home. I maintain you have no more control over your basic intelligence than your eye color or your gender or anything else. He said he does not plan to take any further legal action. Jordan, a 49-year-old college graduate, took the exam in 1996 and scored 33 points, the equivalent of an IQ of 125. But New London police interviewed only candidates who scored 20 to 27 on the theory that those who scored too high could get bored with police work and leave soon after undergoing costly training. So what they're telling you is they have to hire stupider people. Now, if 33 equals like 125, 20 to 27 is probably lower than 100. I would say 100 to 27 is probably around 100. And then below that is, you can be drooling on yourself with an IQ of 4 and they'd probably hire you. And again, right from their own mouth, on the theory that those who scored too high could get bored with police work and leave soon after undergoing costly training. I don't think you could get bored with police work. I think the problem is, the turnover rate's high because people with any semblance of intelligence are going to be like, you want me to shoot and beat civilians for no reason? And all I'm doing is driving around with this little tin badge collecting money. I'm not really protecting anybody besides the elitist scumbags. So yeah, maybe that's why they have a high turnover rate. But the U.S. District Court found that New London had, quote-unquote, shown a rational basis for the policy. So I guess it's rational to say, hey, we shouldn't change our policing procedures and policies so that we don't beat the crap out of innocent people and things like that. No, that would make sense. Instead, let's just hire stupider people to be the police. That should bother you, ladies and gentlemen. And that should also answer a few questions when people say, I don't understand why they would do that. Don't they use any common sense when no, they don't. They don't have it. Not all of them are like that, but unfortunately the majority is now. And it's not me. You can see it's the police department, their own hiring standards, in their own words. People with higher IQs wouldn't stay and do the job as long. So the turnover rate was too much for him. So they answered to that rather than maybe look at the policies and things they're doing. No, that can't be wrong. They're God. So instead, they hire dumber people to do the job. Same thing happened with TSA. It's been over 2 years now, right? I'd say, like 2.5 years since I started hearing the stories of the TSA agents getting fired because they didn't want to do the gropings. Remember that? Anybody? Anyone? Bueller? Go look it up. You don't know what I'm talking about? Go on Google. If you don't want to use Google, I'm sure there's... I know I posted articles about it on Federal Jack. You could just Google TSA there or whatever, TSA groping. But just Google, if you want to find it fast, and other articles other than just Federal Jack, other sources. Just Google TSA fires people who are unwilling to grope. And I'm sure a bazillion articles will come up. They actually put out a questionnaire, and they were asking the employees, do you have a problem with groping people? And anybody that said, I'm not going to just grope some, 10-year-old kid, you're out of your mind. That's insane. Fired. Maybe not that day, but within a week or two, fired. And they replaced them with people that will do anything for money because they need jobs. I know a lady that, and I don't know her like personal friends, but I know her acquaintance-wise. I've met her. She works for DHS down in Miami. Do you know what she did for 15 years before she worked for DHS? She collected money from the government every month. That's right. She was on welfare for 15 years. Welfare and food stamps. And I'm not bashing anybody on food stamps. It's the way the economy is right now. It's saving a lot of people. But the point is, this woman was on food stamps and welfare, straight living off the government, no job, 15 years. And suddenly, this makes her qualified to work for Department of Homeland Security. Now, think about that for a minute. Why would they want someone like her working for Homeland Security? Because she's beholden to the government. She's been trained for 15 years that they are what feeds her. They are what supplies her money for her to go on her vacations or buy her TVs or her Xbox or her television. And that is who they hire to fill these positions. You wonder why the fat guy is willing... Well, you wonder why the fat, 35-year-old guy who lives with his mother is working in the TSA security groping section. Because the guy probably hasn't gotten laid in 5 years. The last time he saw it was when he came out of his mother. I mean, honestly, these are the kind of people, and, I don't care if I offend someone that works for TSA and says, well, I'm not like that. Well, then quit, because you shouldn't be working for that organization. Don't think that you're going to change it from within. I'll go to TSA and change it from within. No, you won't. You wish you had that power. If you work for TSA, quit. It's a crappy job. I'd rather be unemployed and live in a box than work for TSA, okay? Seriously. I'd rather be eating bugs and insects and living on the street than work for TSA. I'm not kidding. Well, you got to do it, Popeye. Well, I got to do it. What, love of money? Who are you serving? Who's your master then? So when they tell you to grope that little 11-year-old girl, you're going to do it, right? You scumbag. When we get back, next segment, I'm going to give a little bit of a maybe not a speech, but I'm going to have a Popeye's fireside chat with the police officers, military in this country. I'm going to talk to you guys. I I got something I want to say to you. So pay attention. Don't go anywhere.
No one knows what it's like.
The citizens of this country need you to do the right thing.
To be the sad man.
So do the right thing. Be the heroes that you want to be. Stop serving your masters and start serving the citizens of this country. All right. So I said I had a message for the police and the firefighters and the military. Everybody that is a civil servant. Government agents. Everybody took an oath to defend the Constitution and the people of this country from enemies foreign and domestic. If you act upon orders from this New World Order controlled government of ours, when you start rounding people up, it's not going to be a good situation. I don't think I have to go further. I think every one of you listening understands what I'm talking about. This scenario has been played out over and over and over and over and over again on paper. So we all know what would happen. So why don't we surprise the New World Order instead of doing what they want and falling into line like little pawns on a chessboard and being used like you are, okay? Instead of fulfilling this prophecy, let's change it. Let's throw a monkey wrench in the works. Let's do something that they didn't count on. They didn't count on or account for. Let's have the police and the military turn around and say no. Let's have you guys turn around and do what you're supposed to do and help the citizens of this country take it back from these elitist douches that have pretty much since the 60s. There was a coup d'etat, and ever since then, things have really gone down the crapper. And like Jim Marr says, it's the Fourth Reich. And this isn't about, oh, you're saying everybody's Nazis, Popeye. No, don't be foolish. Don't even play that game. This is a mix of communism, fascism, and corporatism, which actually is what fascism is. But it's like this mutant version of corporatism and fascism and communism, which is actually Illuminism. Because communism, if you've read Gary Allen's book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy, you'll find out that the Communist Manifesto was just Adam Weishaupt's writings, his works rewritten for about 100 years later. It wasn't something that Karl Marx thought of by himself, and he's this great person. He created communism. That's crap. If you don't know what I'm talking about, email me, contact dtrh@yahoo.com. Contact dtrh@yahoo.com, and I will send you an ebook copy of None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen. The book's like 50 years old. Actually, I think it's a little older than 50 years old. But Gary's dead, and I don't know, you could probably find a couple physical copies maybe on Amazon or eBay or something. But if you want the ebook version, I will send it to you PDF format, and you can read it on your phone or your little ebook reader and everything there. So anyway, now that I've gotten a little bit sidetracked, I guess my final point to you, police, military, whoever else, civil servants, is remember history. And if you don't know history, if you're not a student of it, I suggest you go look up something called the Night of Long Knives and Rome's Purge. Rome was not Rome, but it's like Rohm, I think is how he spelled his name. But he was the leader of the brown shirts. And he, after Hitler was done, and they had rounded up everybody that they needed to round up, and Nazi Germany was running the way they wanted it to run, Hitler went to the the German army. The army wasn't, they had panzer divisions, the SS panzer divisions and stuff like that. They had different SS divisions, but not all of them in the army. The Wehrmacht were not all Nazis. So he had to go win over the generals in the army. And the generals in the army told Hitler, basically, we'll work for you and fight your wars. You have to get rid of the brown shirts because we don't trust them. They're out of control. They make us nervous. They got to go. And Hitler said, done. And he turned around, and the very people that had helped bring him to power, he turned around, half of them were killed, and the other half were put into the very same camps that they helped round people up. And Rome, the leader of the brown shirts, was killed. And go look up the Night of Long Knives. Become a student of history, because you are doomed to repeat it if you don't pay attention. Most of the guys out there that have served, most of the men and women, they realize that this war on terror is crap. There are some people that still buy into it. And I served for 15 years in the special forces. You have no idea the stuff I did. We fought real terrorists. That's great. But we created those people. You were used. You were lied to. You were used. You were jerked around. I know it sucks. I know some of your friends died for nothing. But guess what? Don't be mad at me. Be mad at the people. And don't be mad at the citizens. Be mad at the people that actually perpetrated it. Help us get justice. Help bring them to justice and bring the country back. Now, I say this on the heels of this 2-minute video that I am going to play that Joe played last night. And I wanted to specifically address you because here we go. The RNC is coming up in August. And what do they have in Tampa yesterday? They have special forces. Special forces invading Tampa. We're going to rescue the mayor. The Aussies were there. They interviewed an Aussie. So, you can verifiably, people that I know were there were U.S. Marines, U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, and the Australian Army. Who else knows who was there? They admit that there were foreign troops, though, here training. Check it out.
You may have noticed today the Tampa Convention Center and the Harbor Island Bridge were overtaken as part of an unusual military exercise. Our Allison Morrow joins us live tonight to show us what this was all about today. Allison?
Jameson, it was unusual, but it also was extremely cool. It did turn the area around.
Yeah, because martial law is extremely cool. Let's not forget who's actually doing this news report, ladies and gentlemen. It is ABC News, owned by Disney. So, of course, martial law is awesome. We'll make sure we put it in the next 5 Disney movies. In fact, we'll make a Disney movie called Pirates of Martial Law.
Tampa Convention Center into a literal war zone earlier today. It is part of the International Special Operations Forces Conference. There are about 8,000 people here from all over the world. They are showcasing everything Special Forces, from new guns and tanks, and we got to see it all in action right here. It looks like any other day around Harbor Island. A Coast Guard boat, a docked yacht, a pirate ship, and tourists taking photos. And then you see what they're taking pictures of.
Yeah, a Marine Corps Osprey that you see flying around Afghanistan. And by the way, these Ospreys have a habit of crashing. These things are dangerous. Anybody that knows anything about them knows what I'm talking about. These things have killed more Marines, I think, than any other vehicle in the Marine Corps. And, via crashes and everything else. And yet they're flying one of these things over downtown. But hey, it's okay, because if it crashes and kills civilians, hey, that's the price you pay. Freedom ain't free, pal. Sometimes you have to have military equipment raining down upon you. That's just the way it is. Freedom ain't free.
Osprey aircraft flying by Tampa General Hospital and Special Forces jumping out of this helicopter.
Doing this for the public is a very powerful thing because it lets our common...
Sergeant Dan with his balaclava over his face. USMC Special Forces. What is he, Marine Force Recon? Does it make you feel good, Marine? To be walking around with your face covered like that? Well, I'm Special Forces, Popeye. I have to remain secret. Why? Because there's terrorists in the crowd that are going to come get you, Sergeant Dan? Was Bin Laden going to use his facial recognition software from his bunker? Cobra Command? This is getting people, the citizens, acclimated to seeing special forces on the streets. This is illegal. This is illegal. This violates posse comitatus. This is illegal. This is illegal. Do I have to say it again? This is illegal. Unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I'll play the rest of the clip and rip it apart on the other side. We'll be back in a few minutes. Do not go anywhere. If you're in the special forces and they come to you and they say, we need you to go round up American citizens, I want you to go get your team. I want you to put a plan together, and I want you to round up your bosses. And I want you to lock them up for treason. Come get us. We'll take care of things. We'll back you. When I say us, I mean the citizens. There are a lot of idiots that are still asleep out there, but trust me, there are many of us that are awake, and we will back. We will get your back. We will back you. But you need to stand up and do the right thing, because you got to knock this crap off. This, you know, and I'm sure, I'm willing to bet Sergeant Dan thinks he's doing the right thing too. $20, because he's been, you know, it's compartmentalized. He's been told he's doing the right thing. He's fighting terror. You know, if Sergeant Dan has been to Iraq or Afghanistan at least once, he's got to know the reality of the situation. So, I don't know. Just kind of pisses me off. All right, let me get back into it so I can finish this up.
Enemies know that if they mess with one of us, they're going to have to answer to all of us.
Sergeant Dan is an American Marine. He's one of the guys jumping into the water here alongside a man he just met, Army Private Mark from Australia.
Well, when you first meet somebody, you don't really know what they're like, if you know what I mean. Like, you don't know the drills that they're used to. You don't know.
And Private Army Mark from Australia. Yes, Private Army Mark. Well, Mark is wearing a balaclava as well. So why do you need to cover your face? Why do we have foreign troops? Let me ask you a question. Why did the news reporter not say, why are there foreign troops here? No. Instead, they report it as if foreign troops on U.S. soil should be a normal thing. I'm not kidding. You think that you think that they didn't mention it just because they forgot? No, they did it. Remember that. And I know I'm kind of harping on it, but it's important to remember that piece right there. Remember I always say the devil's in the details, attention to detail? Okay, that's why they in boot camp they drill that in your head, attention to detail, because it's the little details that'll get you killed. The tiny things, the small shit. That's what gets you killed in combat. That's what gets you killed when you're on board a ship or in a helicopter or in a plane. It's the small stuff. This little small piece right here is a huge piece of the puzzle. They're talking to an Australian army private like it's nothing that a foreign military is here doing invasion training. You know, I know, and of course it's not invasion training. I know it's not what it's called. I'm just putting that title on it for the people that maybe aren't familiar with military nomenclature. They're doing it to get people to accept this as the norm. Oh, it's normal to see troops on the streets, you know, American or foreign.
The type of person they are.
But that's often what special forces means. Life or death maneuvers across the world, sometimes beside total strangers who may not even speak your language. But Sergeant Dan explained.
No, that's not what special forces means. That's what global government and global controlled military, NATO, UN means. But that's not what special forces is. Special forces was originally invented for special operations, special warfare, unconventional warfare.
It this way, pointing at his heart.
From the outside, people see all kinds of expensive guns and boats and equipment and this and that, but at the end of the day, it's about what's in here. And you can't learn about that unless you get together and get face-to-face.
Today's objective, secure enemy territory and save someone pretty important to Tampa.
Well done. Glad to see we rescued you.
Mayor Bob Buckhorn, who got to fire this .50 caliber automatic weapon.
They're the best in the world. They saved me. I'm not sure the voters really appreciate that, but my wife and kids do. That is our family, and they get to come out and demonstrate what they do every day for us so that we're safer, and I love them to death, and I know everyone in this community does too.
Now, 10 different countries participated in that drill earlier today. They have all done that in active combat. And
Hey, really, Allison? 10 different countries? How come you only showed the United States and Private Mock from Australia? How come you didn't show the other 8 countries that took part in this little exercise here on American soil? Who were the other 8 countries? I bet you at least 1 or 2 of them are NATO countries. What do you want to bet? We want to bet at least 1 or 2 of them were part of the UN peacekeeping forces. What do you want to bet? But let's not talk about that, right? Right, Allison? Right? It's cool. They created the environment of a military siege and takeover here in downtown. It was awesome, because martial law is cool, ladies and gentlemen. Coming soon, Pirates of Martial Law, starring Johnny Depp.
Tonight, the ISOP conference will have a special guest. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will be here. We will bring you what she has to say tonight at 11. For now, we're live in Tampa. I'm Allison Morrow, ABC Action News.
All right, thank you, Allison. Yeah, as you mentioned, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is scheduled to be the keynote speaker tonight at the Tampa Convention Center for a conference hosted by the U.S. Special Operations Command. Special Forces.
So evil personified will be speaking, well, did speak, I guess, yesterday at the Special Operations Command at the dinner later on that evening. That's nice. So evil personified walked into the room. She walked in, the doors closed, and she went, "Yes, we will keep sending you into harm's way and killing you at our whim. We don't care." Time to wake up. They have destroyed our military. Oh, Popeye, that's not nice. You don't support the troops. Bullshit. I support them more than any of these scumbag politicians because I want to bring every one of them home, and not just from Afghanistan, not just from any other little adventure foray that we've gone into in the past 10 years. I mean, bring them all home from every base. We don't need to have people in Korea anymore. Oh, North Korea will just eat South Korea if we leave. Bullshit. We don't need to be part of NATO. We take like 60%, 65% of the burden of NATO, if not more. Time to leave. Goodbye. F you. Watch NATO crumble when we leave. I want them all home. Every last one of them. I love them all more than anybody could imagine. Only a veteran could understand what I'm talking about. I don't know these young kids that are going over there right now, getting deployed, coming back. I don't know them personally. But they're veterans. They're part of a family that I'm part of. And if our government won't look out for them, somebody's got to speak up on their behalf because they don't like this. Why do you think record numbers of soldiers are committing suicide? Because they go there, they see things, they witness things, sometimes they might even partake in things, whatever. Then they come back here and they're forced to deal with that. And while they're dealing with it, then they get told, hey, you're going to redeploy again and again and again and again. And after the 5th or 6th time, they can't fathom going back there. They would rather die than go back there. What kind of psychological hell is that to put somebody through? We're wasting our military. We're taking these men and women who joined for good reasons. Of course, there's always a couple bad pieces of fruit. But mostly people don't join, so I'm going to go piss on someone after I shoot them. That's what happens when you put through, 8 or 10 combat tours and you watch your friends die. And believe me, these scumbags know this. These social engineering douches, they know this. They understand what happens. They don't care about the men and women of the military. They don't care. You want to do something honorable? Turn around and help us get rid of this organization, the New World Order, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. We know there's you when you get into it, yes, you find out there really is an Illuminati and everything. But if that doesn't make you comfortable, using that term, fine. Call them whatever you want to call them. The point is, facts are facts. 20 years from now, do you want to be living in a, some prison planet type existence if you're still alive? And if you're allowed to have kids, and you have a child, and your kid says to you, well, Mom, Dad, what did you do? What did you do while this was all going on? Oh, I helped create the police state. Aren't you proud of me? Now, I think your kid and your wife and your mother and your father, whoever, I think your family would be more proud of you, and you'd be more proud of yourself if you said, F this, I'm not going to partake in this. Because it takes a bigger person to say no than it does to say yes. It's much easier to just go along to get along. It takes a bigger person and a stronger person to say no. And if any of you veterans that are out there that are war resistors, you hear this broadcast, because there's thousands of them, ladies and gentlemen, thousands. Go look it up and help these men and women. They're going AWOL because they don't agree with what's going on with these wars. And if any of you are listening, we know you're out there, and there are people that care about you. And I appreciate what you did. I appreciate the courage it takes to go AWOL and tell the government to screw. I won't partake in an illegal war. You can get in deep trouble for that.
This is Sparta!
These guys are putting everything on the line to stand up for what they believe in. That is sticking to your oath. And that's how it's done. And those of you that say just following orders should take a friggin' cue from the war resistors, and you'll learn something. All right, we're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. Hour number 1 up, hour number 2 coming up. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. It is Friday, May 25th, 2012, Memorial Day weekend of 2012. And hour number 2, I'm joined by my 2 good friends, my brothers from different mothers, Mr. Joe Joseph and Tim Watts.
Hi-yo! Dude, you're in serious trouble. We're going to trash your place tonight, and then we're redecorating.
That's right, man.
Well, actually, you guys really blew me away during the break.
Yes, that's what we do.
Totally knocked me off the rails with this little piece of information that you gave me about Rand Paul. Was this from today, by the way? This was live today?
Yes. The Freedom Link sleuths went and dug this one up.
Unbelievable. Ladies
I
and
had the leash. I held Joe. I had the leash, and he was sleuthing.
That's right.
That's the way it went.
Did you when you guys found this out? Like, did you
disgust?
Were
Absolutely
you, like, disgusted?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, let me tell you something, man. This whole clip, we could play the whole clip, but it is Rand Paul giving Mitt Romney a lap dance on Fox News or Business, whatever the freaking hell it is. But all I'm saying is that when Rand Paul goes and screws his father, and I mean puts the screws to him, knows what his father's strategy is, knows what's going on, and now he does this?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about Benedict Arnold, bro.
Yep.
Shoot.
Yeah, I believe he pretty much endorsed Mitt Romney as, quote, precisely the person I would want to turn around a failing business like our government. Let me play this line from this. Let me see.
Allows you to be president as versus being a plumber. What do you make of that quote?
Well, I think it's a not very intelligent quote. What I would say is I do want someone who's been good at managing businesses that have been in failure and trying to turn them around. Right now, I'd consider our government to be a failed business. And so I think Governor Romney would be precisely the person I would want to turn around a failing business like our government, which wastes hundreds.
I just can't. What a scumbag.
Is that unbelievable?
Well, no, because you know what? It's not unbelievable. I never liked Rand.
No, he's a neocon, bro.
I've always said, Joe and I have covered this before when we've talked about Ron Paul, and then we're like, well, there was Ron Paul, then there's the apple that fell pretty far from the tree.
He is so not. He is so not his dad. Hey, you know, he's Mr. Compromise, you know, Mr. Partisan dude, you know. He's hawkish. He's a war hawk, and you can tell that he is by his behavior. He goes right. He's going to be in lockstep with Romney here, and I don't know what the whole thing is about the vice presidency. It's really a shit position. It's awful. I mean, what do you do? You know, you're the tie-breaking vote.
Yeah, you're ribbon.
Yeah, I heard Angie.
Got a lot of ribbons.
She's correct. Unless you're Dick Cheney, then you run the country from the vice president.
Yeah, well, you know. Yeah, well, look at that though. I mean, you got Bush. Hell, you understand why Cheney ran the show, but
well, because they're not really going to let moron run things. Come on.
No, of course not. But at the same time, you know, Mitt Romney's no George Bush. You know, come on now. So
no, you're right. He's actually eviler. If that's even the
well, yeah, exactly. So I mean, I don't think you're going to have a VP handler there. I think Mitt Romney can most certainly handle the evil all by himself. So I don't know what Rand's agenda is.
You think
he's
trying to get on the Romney ticket as a cabinet member?
I know he's on the short list for VP.
Now, see, to me, that doesn't make sense. I mean, and I believe you, Joe, but I mean, for Paul to be playing both sides of the fence to get the VP nod, because think about this realistically. If he's the VP nod, as we just said, that's a ribbon cutter. You're not doing much. So we have to really, all right, what we have to do is we have to wait 8 years for you to get power so you can do something. So we're going to give up our chance now so we can put up with 8 more years of bullshit, seriously, so we can wait for you to get in the position your dad's in right now? Yeah, I don't know. This isn't sitting well with me, guys. It's not setting well.
No, the strategy is sound, and Ron Paul's really making some headway.
Yeah, but some of his advisors are douchebags. He needs to get rid of a few of his advisors.
You know, but the timing here is horrible because look of all times, Ron Paul is trending up right now. He's just taken all the delegates from Minnesota.
Makes you wonder why his own son
won Iowa. What?
Makes you wonder, Tim, why would his own son Benedict Arnold him?
Exactly. That's what Joe and I were talking. I said, there's 3 names synonymous in history now. You got Judas, Benedict Arnold, and Rand Paul. Good company.
I don't know. You know what, dude?
Wow, dude. You're hanging. You threw him in there with Judas. Wow. Yeah.
Serious, dude. Think about this.
Well, yeah. Come on, dude. I mean, this is the most despicable thing I've ever heard of.
Why don't we do this? Can we play that whole clip? I want to play that whole clip because people need to hear him. Just
is it that bad? Is it like bleh?
Yeah, it's Romney worship.
Ugh. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's what had the Indians put it?
I don't know. I heard a lot of
tongue. He speak with forked tongue.
Yeah, he speak with forked tongue. All right,
that's it. He speaks with forked tongue.
Yeah, he's a pole smoke. He's pole smoking. You know.
Let's play it. We can rip it apart. Hold on, I'll play it and we can just tear into it as it goes. Here you go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start the clip. I guarantee you we're going to have to drag it over to the next segment. But here we go. On Fox Business News.
Rand Paul says those guys have...
And what did Timmy say about Fox News? Don't watch Fox News. It'll only make you stupid. Okay, here we go.
A lot to be angry about. And he joins me now. So, sir, why do you think Silicon Valley is mad at the president?
Well, what I think is that what people don't realize about a capital investment firm is when they come in, if they don't come in at all, the business may lose all of its jobs. So let's say there's 1,000 employees and a business is struggling and it needs an infusion of capital. Maybe all 1,000 lose their jobs, but maybe an investment firm comes in and 500 people lose their jobs. Or you could say 500 people keep their jobs. So I think these people just don't understand capitalism. They don't understand private equity. And really, they frankly are being very unfair to Romney.
Yeah, and to your point.
Oh, they're being very unfair to Romney.
Did he just say that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Rand, do me a favor. There's something on your chin.
Yeah. Hey, Mitt, do you like it when I move it and shake it like that?
Jesus Christ. There's something on your chin, Rand. Apparently, Romney left something there before you went on the friggin' line.
You know, it's bad enough. It's bad enough. It's bad enough that Rand sounds like a Roman Catholic priest talking to an altar boy. You know what I mean? It's really bad. You hear, so he's got that Roman Catholic, that sound to him. It's like, oh boy. Yeah, I mean, we're in for it, man. That's all I can say. If he goes and screws his father like that,
if his father backs down to him, and then I'm done. Then I won't even. I'll be like, what a turd. I'll be mad.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think Ron Paul's a superhero or anything like that, but it's his message, and his son doesn't push that same message. His son, I mean, he talks about freedom and stuff, but then he'll be like, "Oh, we should bomb Iran."
Much more toned down as far as he's not as quote radical as Ron Paul, where Ron Paul just likes.
I would consider it the other way around.
No, I know, but I'm saying the way people think.
No, I know what you mean. According to the status quo and the brain dead out there, Paul, yes, he's an extremist. So his son is more in between Romney and
extreme.
Yeah. Ugh, I just can't believe that he just.
Oh, but dude, the whole thing is just chock full of this stuff.
Well, we're going to be going to break in a second, so when we come back on the other side, I'll play it.
Because it's unbelievable. And I mean, that one bit right there where you kind of endorse Romney. Yeah, that's important. But this whole
starts off with, "I think people are picking on Romney."
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? Again, there seems to be something on your chin, Rand. You should make sure you wipe your mouth before you come on air, you scumbag.
Yeah.
We have to look out for the new book by Rand Paul, Daddy Dearest.
Yeah, Daddy Dearest.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break. Stay tuned. Joe, Tim, and myself will tear this clip apart more when we come back.
Angel investors basically helped launch, we got the list for you, sir. Apple, Google, Facebook, Yelp, PayPal, all were helped out by angel investors. Do you think they're kind of spooked that capital gains taxes are going to rise next year if the president wins?
Well, I think it's going to get to be such nonsense that the president will back down, because I think the American people aren't that gullible to think that investors are somehow the enemy, that corporations are the enemy, or rich people are the enemy. What I think the American people are going to understand is they want the private sector to grow everybody. Rich people, poor people, middle class, we want them all to do better, so more jobs are created. But it's not me against you. It's not rich people against the middle class.
Let's just get something straight. Not all corporations are the enemy, but corporations as a whole. Rand were not even allowed to exist in this country back in the day when we first started this country.
Our forefathers had, a time limit on them. They had to go in like 20 years to 40 years or whatever. They couldn't operate, and they had to get rid of them. They had to dissolve.
And they had to prove that they were, their goal was to better the country.
Yep.
Basically. And he's like, "Oh, corporations." I don't like how he's talking. I don't like that at all. I don't like. You see, I understand key things that are coming out of his mouth. I'm listening. There's certain things that he's saying that are just red flags. And when he
listen to the brainwash stuff, Popeye, where he's saying people. Oh no, people are not stupid enough to fall for this. I mean, look at that. That's part of the whole psyop right there. People aren't stupid enough to fall for this. Yeah, really. Right.
Yes, we're really quite intelligent, us American people.
Let's hear what other retarded things he has to say.
It's not this politics of envy and divisiveness. It's really about we want all of the private sector to grow, and I don't think jealousy and envy are a great political device for the president.
It creates worse citizens when you have bigger government, sir. I think that's your point, right?
Exactly. And really, it has to be about growing the private sector. The government sector should always be kept at a minimum because it's just not very efficient. But jobs are created in the private sector, so we need to have lower taxes, less regulation, and let the economy thrive.
If you tax the rich, which, by the way...
Less regulation? Is that even possible to have less regulation of industries?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think they run amok right now pretty well.
They've deregulated everything. I mean, is it possible to have any less regulation?
I don't know. I don't think so. All I know is, boy, we're in a much better position now that they've deregulated everything. I mean, that free market is really working out well for us.
Damn right. It's working for me, guys. Jeez. How's that working for you?
Boy, I think it's just...
either one of two things happened. Either it was Invasion of the Body Snatchers Day, or you're seeing Rand Paul's true colors, and I think it's the latter of the two.
Well, you know what? Popeye and I were talking, Joe, during the break when you were gone, but in light of this backhanded slap in the nuts from his son, I'm betting right now that Ron Paul is reconsidering the merits of abortion. I'm just saying.
Really strikes good with the left wingers, boys. That'll be good.
He's blowing Romney, dude.
I mean,
and now he's blowing corporations. And look, I'm not saying that the private sector, again, if the government wasn't always in the way, putting their 2 cents into things, trying to run things, we would, people say, well, who would take care of the roads? Well, we wouldn't probably even need roads. We'd be in flying cars by now.
Right. But think about this, dude. Think about the technology that came out around the turn of the 20th century when you had Edison and Tesla and all those great minds. Mm-hmm. And look at where they were then, and look at where we are now. And I'm sorry, we should be way ahead of where we are now. You know what I mean?
We've been held back.
Oh, absolutely held back.
Yeah. And I'm not bashing the free market, as he calls it,
I don't think there's such thing as a free market.
No, I know. Well, the private sector. But let me rephrase that. The private sector, as he called it. I'm not bashing it, but I understand admiralty law and all this other stuff, Black's Law Dictionary. I understand the difference between a person and a corporation. And he's literally blowing corporations, not saying, well, we could make a corporation for the betterment of the country, blah, blah, blah. That's semantics. He's just out there outright like, oh, corporations. It's disgusting. Here, let me try to finish the clip.
Most all small businesses are in the upper bracket. They are in the so-called rich brackets. What would that do toward paying down the interest costs on the debt?
Well, I think what it does is it destroys the people who are paying all the taxes. Right now, those who make over $200,000 a year pay 70% of the income tax. So if you punish them and make it harder for them to earn money, one, you create more unemployment, but you also hurt the tax base because they are the tax base already. And see, a lot of this is just not true. The top 1% of our country are paying nearly 40% of the income tax. The top 1% in our country pay more than they do in Europe. We have a more progressive tax code than they have in Europe. So really, all of the president's attacks are based on falsehoods. And I think as this continues to play out, you'll find that the American people aren't gullible enough to buy it.
Yeah, and if you tax the rich 100%, not only would you demolish jobs, you really wouldn't go toward paying the interest costs on the debt for a couple of years. You just wipe it out. But I want to turn on to another subject for a second. The Vice President Joe Biden had said that just because you work at Bain Capital, it no more qualifies you to be president versus being a plumber. What do you make of that quote?
Well, I think it's a not very intelligent quote. What I would say is I do want someone who's been good at managing businesses that have been in failure and trying to turn them around. Right now, I'd consider our government to be a failed business. And so I think Governor Romney would be precisely the person I would want to turn around a failing business like our government, which wastes, we spend $100 billion.
All right, after that, I can't listen anymore. What?
Slurp. Slurp.
Exactly.
Slurp.
Ugh. Just ugh. Party line carrying this. Ugh. Just, it's disgusting. It is disgusting behavior.
See, Rand, your slacks look like they're a little worn at the knees, dude.
Man, and since when is the government a business? Last time I checked, it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, the office of the president isn't anything more than like the manager of the McDonald's, okay?
Pretty much. I mean, that's basically what...
That's how it's supposed to be. All this,
pretty much.
Crap and the robo-pen. That's nice. Obama's the only president that ever used the robo-pen to actually sign bills. That's nice.
Yeah.
That piece was so full of BS. It's just an unbelievable PR job, you know, for the powers that be.
But you could tell they went to him and said, look, Mitt's going to get the GOP nod. You either, you want on? Get on. But you got to toe the party line. And now all of a sudden I love Mitt Romney. He's the best guy. Rand, Mitt said he would have voted for the NDAA. But let's not pay attention to that, right?
Oh, no, mundane details, my friend.
And if you're in, wear the red tie on TV.
Yes. Wear the
red tie. Wear the Rothschild red there.
The tie is red.
I tell you what a despicable thing to do to your dad. I mean, you talk about, again, Ron Paul is riding this nice nice high here, and his son comes along as the biggest effing buzzkill that there ever was.
What happens if he knows, though, the old man? That makes this even worse.
That's it. You don't know how far it goes. But it doesn't speak well at all.
It doesn't speak well at all.
No, that's not good. Either way you cut it. Because if it's some sort of strategy by the Pauls, that's not good. And
that's what I'm saying. Like if
it's Rand just turncoating, that's not good either.
Yeah, no, either way it's bad. But I think it's worse if his father knows and
No, I don't believe that. I just don't.
I'm not saying he is. I'm not trying to start a conspiracy theory or anything about it. I'm just saying that it is a possibility, and one must consider that to be a possibility. All right, guys, we're going to break. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Joe, Tim, and myself will be back with more when we come back. I want to give a shout-out to my buddy Kurt. He does Room 101 here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. I was listening to him today as I was going around in my travels this morning, and he's doing this new thing where he has this lady come on twice a week and talk about police brutality issues. And I just wanted to say I wanted to give him a shout out on air and say I think that's awesome that he's doing that, because this type of stuff, although Joe and I talk about police brutality and other hosts do, once in a while we'll bring up a story. Kurt is actually devoting like 3 segments twice a week of his show to cover topics of it, the topic of police brutality and all different stories from all around the world. And his goal is to show you how big of an epidemic this is. And I want people, if you can, let me rephrase it. I don't want you to. I would like, but I think if you want to wake people up. If you want people to see the mass amount of police brutality that's going on, some of you may know, some of you may not know. Tune into Kurt's show. I think it's Mondays and Fridays. He said is when he's doing it. So his show's Room 101, and I wanted to give him a shout out for that because that's a really good idea, and it needs to all the light that gets shed on it the subject of police brutality. The better. So kudos, Kurt. And make sure you tune in after my show, after Joe and Tim's show, and after WTF, Monday through Friday from midnight to 1 a.m. for Mae Brussel. Because we're the only network anywhere in the world where you can hear Mae back from the dead on air. I think that's pretty cool. All right, boys, I want to get your take on this. I've been talking about a little bit. In the first hour, I talked about this real quick. And Wednesday, I did pretty much the whole show about Memorial Day weekend down here in South Beach. I should say down here in South Florida. I don't live in South Beach anymore. But the craziness, and I'm sure you guys remember last year the people that got shot because they shot that one guy over 100 times.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, I remember that footage, yeah.
Where they were
didn't he actually die on camera?
Oh, he died, in the car.
Yeah,
remember they were coming up and yanking people's cameras at gunpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was the episode. Well, it's that time of year again.
Hooray.
Yes, fun. And I talked about how they're turning South Beach into a police state in response to that. And
instead of not just there. I mean, it's
throwing the party out, though. Mm-hmm. Just let's spend $1.8 million on policing and crowd control.
Yeah, the city of Virginia Beach now has facial recognition system on the boardwalk and everything else.
Oh, but that's just to keep you safe, Joe.
Well, of course.
See, that's gonna keep you safe.
Yeah, because Al Qaeda buys snow cones.
Snow cones.
They're up and down the boardwalk a lot.
And saltwater taffy.
Trying to buy saltwater taffy and funnel cake. You catch that?
I love that stuff. The funnel cake is just wonderful.
Yes, the saltwater taffy reminds me of C4. And I can mold it, and it tastes like bubble gum.
Well, see, that's what happened. It was all the powdered sugar from the funnel cake sent Bin Laden into a diabetic shock, and it ended up damaging his kidneys and requiring him to be on dialysis for the rest of his life. And that's why he was on the dialysis machine, because of boardwalk funnel cake. Specifically, the confectioner's sugar that they put on top of the boardwalk funnel cake.
Truly a devious scheme.
You see how you can connect it all? There you go.
Yeah.
I'm sure one of the government tarts that listens and records this stuff, whether it's a contractor or whoever got the deal to record all internet radio. Right now, he's taking notes. That's a good idea. He's got his pad open with his pen. Let me take note of that.
Really?
Just unbelievable.
Listening.
Well, going along with the unbelievable insanity, right? And I always say unbelievable because I want to hit home. I want to drive home the people that it should be unbelievable and insane in your view. That's a normal view. When you go, this is just crazy. You know, I read the article exactly verbatim as it was written by the lady I was talking about first hour, where she got she wrote an article about a pregnant woman being tased. And again, she was like in her last trimester. I think she was like 8 or 9 months pregnant, whatever it was. She was just huge, and they tased her. Pregnant woman. 3 cops tased her in a neck, leg, arm, right? So
cops.
Oh yeah, big, strong, tough, early, manly men, right? Sure. Well, yeah, I know, it's disgusting.
Like members of the East German swim team.
Exactly. Well, I want people to have. I want people to still have that look. The way she did when she wrote the article, she was looking at it like, this is unbelievable. I want people to look at it like that, because that's how you should look at it. A normal, sane person says, this is insane. This is out of hand. Only someone who's sick could look at that and go, oh, well, that's cool, man. You know what I mean? She deserved it. She deserved to get tased. You know what I mean? The pregnant kid gave the cop the finger. He stuck his arm out of her uterus and flipped off the cop and said, eat it, pig. So I had to taste.
It was really Quato from Total Recall.
I'm surprised she didn't get forced into early labor or something like that.
Yeah, man.
You can lose all like bodily function.
I'm surprised it didn't hurt the baby.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cow.
I don't understand.
Kind of a threat.
You know what, Joe? Let's address these guys really quick. Again, people, officers, whatever you want to call yourselves, patrolmen, super cop, whatever. What the frig is wrong with you? If that was your wife, how would you feel? Put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel if some cop pulled your wife over and for whatever reason, I don't want to hear, well, if she gave him shit. No, shut up, okay? How would you feel realistically if your pregnant wife, she's 8 months pregnant, gets pulled over by some dickhead cop whose ego is bigger than a friggin' semi, and he gets all tough and all on Johnny frickin' Law, and he tasers her, and he hurts your unborn child and your wife? How would you feel?
You know how I'd feel.
Well, I know how you'd feel, but I want these guys to put themselves in the other person's shoes.
Well, there's another side to this too, and I addressed this last night on my broadcast, was the fact that they're going to meet their match here very soon. You've got a lot of vets returning from overseas, doing 3-4 deployments, in like a 6-year period. That have been in war zones for over 2 years.
Why do you think they're so scared of vets, dude? And have you noticed that when cops, you can obviously tell the ones that aren't vets because they wouldn't be making fun of another veteran service.
Right.
But you can tell, like when they shot the 60, I think he was 63, the 63-year-old black Marine, like a month or two ago. One who rolled over accidentally on his medical alert tag, and for accidentally rolling over on his medical alert tag, they tased him and then shot him and killed him. They were making fun of his Marine Corps service and the fact that he was a vet. Yeah. I've noticed that there's a lot of stories like that where these cops are making fun of it. That's not going to bode well, man. No. They're doing that to a Navy SEAL or some Green.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing is these cops think they're John Wayne, you know, that they're, you know, hey, man, the sheriff's in town, you know, man. And let me tell you something. They're in for a rude awakening.
Really does to a combat-hardened Marine.
There's some people,
Well, there are some good ones, you know. There's so you don't have to lump them all together, but man, there's some bad ones that need to be weeded out.
You know what it used to be back in the day? You couldn't lump them all together, and there was more. I know. There was more good than bad, but now it's the other way around.
But let me ask you both. I mean, what kind of moron picks a fight with a pregnant girl?
I don't know, man. I mean,
and then they hit with a lead pipe, maybe, or
a huge pussy.
Yeah,
that's it.
And he was going to waste her.
Oh,
I was going to waste her too. She was pregnant.
Inside joke.
Unbelievable. I was going to waste her.
Timmy, you
I don't know. 3 cops. I mean, what kind of threat could she have posed? I mean, I just don't get it.
I told you.
It's intimidation tactics, dude.
There was a little bit of an echo killed with tasers. It was like over 400 people, and this was like 200, maybe 2 years ago. 400 people had died from taser use already. These people have just adopted that thing. It's like it's an easy thing. We don't kill people. 400 people have died, or more now.
Oh no, now they're classified as less than lethal, not non-lethal. I mean, think about it, man. I think we addressed this before. My 9mm is less than lethal.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the final segment. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, as I always do. Don't forget to tune in Sunday. I have Andrew Steele from the website America20XY coming on. I've actually been wanting to get Andrew on for a while. He was one of the very first people that bought a hard drive for me back when I first started selling them, the ones that are loaded with videos. And I think this was back when they were like 500 gigabytes or 750 gig. Now they're like 3 terabyte drives. But he was one of the first people, and he was cool. He made me a commercial. Just him showing what it was, going through, what he got, and he was, pleased, everything, blah, blah, blah. But his website and his commentary are really spot on. He's a very interesting individual, and I've been wanting to get him on, and I was able to get him scheduled for this Sunday. So tune in 5 to 7 for that, and then make sure you stay tuned in and for Joe's show with
Yash.
And then after that, listen to Ken, of course, because Ken's my buddy, and I love to listen to the old curmudgeon.
The crotchety old curmudgeon.
I love when Ken goes off.
Yes.
And he gets all flustered. And
when his chocolate whiz-wang puckers up.
He gets all pissy. Well, here, I want to... Let's see if you guys... Let's see what you have to say about this. Because this is the last article I wanted to read. Miami Beach Police Union rep. Quote, "We have arrest quotas every Memorial Day weekend." End quote. Now, the chief of police, the new one down here, because the old one got canned, the new one, he says there's no quotas. It was a misunderstanding. They didn't hear what they heard. But there's multiple officers complaining to the police union that they're being told that they have an arrest quota of 2,000 people. And the Miami Beach Police Union rep is a detective. Now, I'm not saying cops don't lie and that detectives haven't lied in the past and stuff like that, but this officer is saying, why would this detective have any reason to lie about the city, him being told by the police department, their chief or whatever, and not so much it being the chief, but, the chief having one of his, command do it, whether it be the captain or whoever. And they say, you got to, we have an arrest quota of 2,000 people this weekend.
Well, yeah, then it would make it profitable.
Well, That's you got to remember. They're spending $1.8 million on this, and I said this on Wednesday. They don't make a quarter of that in revenue back at all.
No, they get it. They get it from their arrests. Oh yeah, they're going to make a mint.
You figure they make about $5,500 per arrest, even if it was only $5,000 per arrest at 2,000 arrest. What's 2,000 times 5,000? And then there's your answer as to why they want to, because all that money goes to the city. They have their own court down on Miami Beach and everything. It's not like they have to. They do once they've processed them, like prison wise. They end up taking them downtown, and most of the time, there are people that end up.
That's $10 million.
Well, there you go. That would be between South Beach, the police department, i.e., the city, and some of it would get kicked down to downtown because they would be transporting them all night with the prison buses, which they keep down here. I made a video showing their setup a couple years ago, how they were doing things back in the day, and it was out of hand back then. And that was the year that they did over 1,000 arrests. If you look it up on YouTube, it's called Federal Jack Presents Don't Take the Bus. Just Google it. And there still should be a copy floating around out there. And you'll see there's annotations in there. You'll see there's a DHS trailer. They have cops coming from all over the state. And then they get the feds walking around. Why is the DEA walking around South Beach? What are they? Oh, well, it's for anti-gang violence. Man, get out of here. This crap, if the DEA is walking around, then you can bet your bippy that I'm willing to bet the city didn't fund at $1.8 million all by themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even if they did, even if the city did, let's say for just hypothetical purposes that maybe the city did pay $1.8 million by themselves, no help from the feds at all, nothing, right? DHS didn't give them any money. Yeah, okay, sure. I doubt that, but okay, let's say the city spent it all by themselves. Your calculation's $10 million, right?
$10 million.
Okay, well, spending 1.8 to make $10
million. That's a pretty good deal, bro.
I would say so.
Yeah.
And I bet you somebody's pockets are going to get lined too.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the clientele that partakes of that little celebration down there, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah. People down in the South Beach, they ought to be, why not? Don't call you just your elected representatives. Hell, call the police department. Ask to call the police captain, the police chief. Let them know. I mean, geez, for crying out loud.
Well, look, I lived in South Beach for a long time, and I can tell you that the Memorial Day weekend in there sucks. And in a nutshell, it's this. The city was losing money because the downtown, they had built a newer convention center. The one on the beach is older, and people were going there. So they were hemorrhaging money, plus other reasons, too. There was a few other factors, but that was one of the larger factors into it. And the tourism was to their tourism in general, but especially using their convention center was starting to wane. So they made up for it with inviting Freaknik, which was a party that took place in Atlanta, and it got too out of control, and Atlanta threw them out. And then they were looking for a place to host the party, and South Beach was like, oh, come on down. You want to end this. You don't need to have cops all over the place because everybody says, I know residents that say, dude, you live there, come on. And I'm like, no, you're right. It gets out of control. It does. I mean, it does. I can't say it doesn't. It gets out of control. People, everything from fights, shootings, people pissing in the street. It's disgusting. Okay. But if you want to stop it, bringing in, the militarized police and this huge police state is not the answer. How about just not having the event? How about we try that for a change? How about some sensible things?
That's a novel concept, but then they wouldn't make the money.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't make their $10 million in arrests because they know that the money isn't going to be made in revenue that weekend. They've learned. They know it's made from the arrests. Dude, the businesses close up. In the video the clip I played on Wednesday, okay, you hear the news reporter. She's talking about, there's businesses closing up and blah blah. Or it was a guy, I think. Whatever. We were talking about the businesses closing up, and they were feigning surprise. Really, because one of the other business owners he was talking to was saying, yeah, this restaurant's closing, this is closing, and they tried to act like this is something new. That's been going on for like 5 or 6 years at least. When Miami Ink was on TV, when it was Miami Ink, it's really called Love Hate Tattoo. Okay, but when it was on TV at its peak, there used to be people lined up to go outside. Memorial Day weekend is the biggest holiday weekend besides the 4th of July in this country. Okay, but for travel and everything else, it's the kickoff of summer. So it really is the biggest weekend. And businesses closed, Joe. Miami Ink, who thrived, they made tons of money off of people coming in, off the street, because it wasn't like you see on the TV show, but people could come in and right off the street and get tattooed and everything. And they made a lot of money off of tourism. Those guys would lock up the shop on like Thursday night and not come back until Monday afternoon. They'd put the hurricane shutters down, and they weren't the only ones. Other tattoo shops would close, other restaurants, hotels, all businesses that thrive on tourism, closing on one of the busiest tourist weekends of the year in a tourist town. And that doesn't tell the city anything for like 5 years straight. That's how you know there's corruption, because obviously the city doesn't care. Obviously they're making the money somewhere else. How are they making the money? Oh, the arrests. That's how they're making the money. So now it becomes not to cut you off, Tim. Now it becomes about arresting for cash, and that's what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly. Oh, you're so prescient, dude. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's gone from to protect and to serve to persecute and to profit. So yeah,
taxation by citation.
Unbelievable.
It's like we're living back in the days of the sheriff of Nottingham, dude.
Yeah.
Except no matter where you go, it's the sheriff of Nottingham, and you better be prepared, Joe, because if you accidentally shoot one of the king's deer on the king's land, even if it was previously your land, it doesn't matter. You might get hung from a tree.
What's that famous line? Bring me my Hossenpfeffer.
And there are people that are just like, I don't see a problem. Really? You must have your head way too far up your ass.
Yeah, really,
to see what's going on.
Oh,
because there's little 6-year-old kids running around going, "There's a problem." Well, boys, we're almost out of time. I want to thank you for coming on today.
Hey, no sweat, man. It was fun.
I know I dragged you on last minute, but when you hit me up during the break and was like, "Did you hear this?" I was just like, "Oh,
yeah." I can see. I was telling Popeye that. Ron has the little visit now with Rand back at the farm. And he says, "Son, walk with me back here." Walk with me back here, son. a little far out in the field.
Oh boy.
In a perfect world, yeah. Well, boys, we're out of time. Just you know what? Like I said, if his father doesn't, say something about this, just goes along with it, then he's done in my eyes too. And that's just the way it is. I'm not in this for personality cult or cult of personality. I'm in this to win this so we can have liberty, freedom, and move on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. We love you all. We will see you on Sunday. We are out of here.